What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in again this week. I know it's been a little bit of time since I put out a video, and that's because the video that we're going to be covering this week, I've tried to find a way to kind of tiptoe around the subject. And I'll get to why here in just a minute, but this week we are heading back to Nublar Island for part 2 of our Jurassic Park series, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the Raptor sound. So with that being said, let's jump into it. Alright, so before we jump into this video, I do need to issue a disclaimer. If you've done any research at all as to what went into the Raptor sounds for the making of Jurassic Park, then I'm sure you've come across an article or two where Gary Rydstrom talks about using the sounds of tortoises, during their consensual, happy adult time. And that's why I've kind of been tiptoeing around how to make this video, because it's something that I've wanted to do. It's just I needed to find an appropriate way to do it. And while this channel isn't designed for kids, I do still try to keep my content family friendly. And so this one was kind of a tiptoeing the line one for me, and I thought about it, and that's just something that happens in sound design. Sometimes you have to use some weird sounds to get great results. And so that being said, if any of those sounds make you uncomfortable, then go ahead and hit stop. I'm not going to be playing a bunch of those sounds, but they will be in this video. So with that being said, that is your disclaimer, and let's jump into Pro Tools. Alright, so now that we're in Pro Tools, the first thing that we need to do is we need to at least take a listen to the original. And so I'm going to go ahead and play the original now, and we're going to kind of build off of that. And while we did talk about the tortoise noises, there were other animals that went into creating the Raptor sound. Such as there was some dogs growling, there was some geese, some vulture sounds. So we're going to kind of take a whole collaboration of animals, just like we did for the T-Rex video in part 1. If you missed that video, go ahead and click on the card that just popped up, probably over in the top corner somewhere, and check that out. But this is the original, and then we're going to go ahead and try to do our best to recreate. Alright, so to get started, we're going to bring in the tortoise sound. And there's a couple other sounds that I think are going to work pretty well with this. Let's go ahead and mute that original. Obviously, it's going to be the tortoise mating sound. And while I was going through some of the other sounds, just like with the first one, there are some animals who make sounds that I didn't realize. So we're going to bring in also a goose. Let's grab a couple of those. I think that's going to be it for now. Let's play around with that. And I'm going to clean these up real quick and come up with. Alright, so I've got these cleaned up, and we're going to go through one by one real quick just to kind of hear the sounds that I pulled out. So we have the tortoise. And then we've got a couple goose sounds. And so listening to all of these sounds, you can kind of hear how you might think they would all go together. So we're going to play around with them. I'm going to get as close as I can to the original. Now, as many articles as I found where Gary Rydstrom talks about the sounds he used, there's not a whole lot of documentation on what he actually did with it. So this may be a total bust. I don't know. My videos are unscripted, So I just go in, I record everything that I'm doing, and I chop it up and make a video for you guys. So this could be a total bust, but let's just see what happens. All right, so for this Tortoise sound, I think the pitch works, but the speed is too fast. So I'm actually going to go in here, warp the speed on it. Okay, so that doesn't sound half bad, speed-wise. And when mixed with this goose sound, we can kind of hear it start to take shape. Now there's just 2 layers unmixed, and this is where we are. So let's bring the volume of the Tortoise down a little bit. And I think we might need to bring the pitch of the goose down as well. So this may get a little annoying, but I'm going to loop this. Alright, so I think the Tortoise needs to come down just a little bit more. Now let's try throwing a little bit of reverb on that. Okay, so with a little bit of reverb on the goose and the Tortoise noise maybe needs to come back up just a little bit now. Do I need the sound of the Tortoise in there? Can I remake the sound of the Velociraptor from Jurassic Park without the awkwardness? I think I can. Let's delete it. Alright, so I went ahead and deleted everything else. So let's actually just play with the goose sound, because I really think I can recreate this Raptor sound without all the dirtiness. Maybe. Okay, so this goose sound is kind of on par with what I want, but I think resonance wise it's still a little too high. So let's bring that down some more. And again, this may get a little annoying because I'm going to loop it. So I think minus 10 semitones might actually work. So Alright, so one of the differences is in mine the attack is way more abrupt than the original. So I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I want to see if I were to add a little bit of reverse reverb on this, if that will help. So we've done reverse reverb before, so I'm going to add a little bit of empty space before the clip, and I'm going to come up here to our audio suite, and I'm going to go ahead and reverse it, and we'll render that out. Okay, so playing it backwards, the end of the goose honk is actually kind of a great attack for that. So now I'm wondering if I can't take a little bit of the reverse track, blend it into the actual attack instead of doing a reverse reverb. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this track. And let's just make this a little bit smaller so it fits on the screen a little better. And I'm going to grab this, I'm going to go back to our audio suite, and I'm going to reverse this one now so that it's back the way that it originally was. So that actually works pretty well compared to our original. It's not exact, but it's not bad. There's definitely something missing. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I duplicated them again, and on this second duplicate, as a comparison, I've got one set at the -10 semitones, and then the second pair I moved up to a -5 semitones. And on the ones that I did the -10 on, I actually went ahead and threw a huge low pass filter on it. So we're essentially cutting off anything really in the 500 to 1K and above. It's not a harsh filter in the sense that it's not a sharp cutoff. It is pretty harsh in the amount that we're leaving out though. And this ends up sounding pretty close. Again, not exact, but let's take a listen to that. And I'll play them back to back here. So we're in the same realm. I'm not going to be able to exactly like wave for wave be able to recreate this, but we're actually super close, and we didn't have to use the Tortoise. Listening to it again though, I think my attack is too pronounced. So let's see if we can't warp the attack into something a little shorter. Okay, so I warped the -10 one, but I didn't warp the -5 one. Instead, I just kind of moved them both in so they have the same starting point. And this is what we end up with. And so I think as far as attack time goes and the timing of the sound, I think we're right on the money. I do, however, think the reverb is a little much. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this down just a little bit more. Not too much. And we're just going to go ahead and replace all of this with this one. Alright, so it's not like sound for sound, but I really like the way this one turned out. Okay, so with the reverb turned down, we're definitely in the right spot. So again, I'm going to go ahead and play what I've got and immediately followed by the original. Alright, so I'm not going to go too much more into this sound because I think if I mess with it too much, I'm going to end up just going too far in the other direction and just start messing it all up. So one thing that I do want to do, though, before we call it quits, is I at least want to try. One thing that's really separating us from the original sound and what we have is, while I did apply a low pass filter to the sounds with the -10 semitones on the pitch shift, I haven't done anything to the ones with the -5, and I think that's what's getting us. Because in the original, while there are some higher frequencies, we're still kind of in that mid-range in the frequencies, whereas our goose honk ends up being more in the mid to mid-high area. So I'm going to throw another EQ onto the two that we have that are just the -5 semitones, and I'm going to apply a slightly less aggressive low pass filter on that and kind of see where we end up. All right, so for the low pass filter on this one, and I'll bring up the comparison here. So I've got this one that is on our -10 semitone. I've got that. It starts the cutoff around 300 hertz, just above it. Whereas the other one, I'm actually cutting off around 3 kilohertz, or 3000 hertz, however you want to look at it. And I think that was the magic ingredient here. So I'm not going to do anything else to this because, like I said, I don't want to ruin it. We're super close, but I'm not going to be able to get it exact. But just one last time, here is the goose first, and then the original. Alright, so if I have to be completely honest, I think that turned out super well. Again, it's not exact. I know I've said that 10,000 times, and you're fully aware that it's not going to be an exact replica of the sound, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And if I had some documentation on how Gary Rydstrom actually used the original sound to kind of get the Raptor sound, I probably could have done a little better of a job on this. But for just kind of eyeballing it, I think this turned out really well. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap things up this week. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out. If you'd like to learn more about what I'm getting into, you're more than welcome to join the Sound Effects Guy Discord channel. There will be a link in the description below. Until next time.